Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about 6-4. Now, 6-4, I know I say this about a lot of assignments, but 6-4 is a great assignment because there's a worksheet that is done, and it's done wrong. And we have to look at the wrong worksheet and make it right. Does that make sense? So the first thing I want to do is, before you get going and start plugging things in and you're not listening to me and I have such good things to share with you, let's spin around and look up here. Okay? Because you are going to get to a situation where you're going to look at your worksheet and you'll be like, oh my God, things are not working out. So an accountant that was not very good, or a bookkeeper that was not very good, went through and created this worksheet for Leafy Lift. Okay? We know there are four reasons that we go through and prepare a worksheet. Trial balance. Trial balance proves that our debits and credits equal after posting. Second thing is we adjust for supplies and insurance, and we adjust because we use things up. We always use things up right now. Then we go through and determine our net income with our revenue and expenses on our income statement. And the last thing, which is all the way over on the end, is our balance sheet, where we go through and make sure that our assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Okay? Those are the four reasons that we have a worksheet. Yesterday, we went through and worked on our income statement and balance sheet columns, and we know that every account that's listed on our trial balance is one classification. You can't be multiple spots. So because it has a classification, it'll either go on the income statement or on the balance sheet. It won't go on both. Okay? And from there, we determined our net income, and we know our net income or net loss. We know we have a net income when our income statement credit column is greater than our debit, because income statement credit equals our revenue, income statement debit equals our expenses. And we also know that if we have a net income, who gets the net income? The owner. And if we have a net income, that net income is going to increase owner's equity, so therefore I would have to credit owner's equity. And owner's equity would be over here on the balance sheet as a credit. If it was a net loss, I would have to debit owner's equity, bless you, so it would go over here as a debit. So before we actually look at our directions, let's just take a look at how far off this worksheet is. Take a look at step number 1. Remember, we have 4 reasons. What's wrong with step number 1? What's the first thing we do in a worksheet? Well, that's part of it. The first, we have 4 things that we complete on a worksheet. What's the first one? Trial balance. And what do we have to make sure? They don't. And what do I tell you all the time? Stop. If your trial balance does not equal, stop right there. Do some math. Look some numbers up. Figure it out. Don't do anything else. Right here. We know that this doesn't equal, so everything else is not going to work. Okay, so then when we look at the next one, let's take a look at our adjustment column. What's the matter with our adjustments? They're in the wrong places. What are we doing to supplies? We're making it go up. Do we have more supplies at the end of the month? No, we have less. Okay, so because these numbers are in the wrong spot, what's going to happen to these numbers? They're going to be the wrong amount. Would you agree? Because supplies should not go from $725 up to $1,150. So these numbers are wrong, which means this number is going to be wrong. And because these are debits and insurance and supplies expense are credits, that means that these numbers are here, which means this total's wrong, which means this total's wrong, which means this is wrong. And also take a look at here that, that doesn't really make sense. And if I have a net income here of $2,208, isn't this number also supposed to go here to prove it? Do you see how this worksheet's all whack? Basically, this is kind of like some of the assignments that I see from students where I say, I don't care, I just got to finish it in, I'm going to put numbers in and then I can turn it in. Something's better than nothing. But we look here and we know it's not done correctly. And one of the nice things about accounting is the fact that you have ways of checking every part of your assignment to see, am I doing it correctly? There's always a way for you to check to see if things are equaling. So we know a lot of things are incorrect here. So the other thing that I really like about this assignment is previously, when we did a worksheet, they just gave us a list of the accounts in order. It says cash, debit, $3,000, for example. When in reality, we get all of our numbers from here. Okay? So we take a look here. We have all of our ledgers listed here. And now up here on the top, we have ledgers. And then on the bottom, we also have ledgers. But do you notice anything here on this cash? Please say you notice something. Your math teachers will be so sad. Okay, the math doesn't work. Would you agree? 7,000 and 4,000 is not 15,000. And 15,000 subtract 6,750 is not 8,000. Do you see that? So part of the problem is our trial balance debits and credits don't equal because guess what? You made mistakes in posting. You did the posting, but the math mistake is incorrect. So we actually have two ledgers on here. On the very top is the ledgers that, I got to think of the name of the person that did the work. Paul Cody did. And on the bottom, we have other ledgers. And down here is going to be where we physically have to fix the mistakes. Does that make sense? So on the top is going to be the ones that Paul Cody did, and we know that's not right. So down here on the bottom, the first thing we have to do is physically go through and fix all of our ledgers. We have to check each one because we know that they don't work because our trial balance doesn't equal. That's the other perfect thing about this assignment. We know that the trial balance doesn't equal because they made a mistake in posting, and it shows you how to go back and fix those mistakes. Okay, so I wanted to point out the reason why we have two ledgers, the top and the bottom. The top one is the one that Paul Cody used. The bottom one is going to be the ones that we are going to fix. So let's go ahead through and do that first. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with each one of our ledger accounts, and we're going to go through and find and fix those mistakes. So I've got to have that calculator out. So we already said 7,000 plus 4,000 is not 15. If you choose the drop-down menu here, hopefully you can figure out that's 11,000. So we're going to do 11,000. We're going to subtract from that 6,750. And that should give you 4,250. Would you agree? We're staying with me on that one? Okay. Basically, we're going to go through and double-check each ledger account. So we just did cash 110. Let's check the next one. Accounts receivable, Sharon Mann. How are we doing on Sharon? Looks pretty good for Sharon. Would you agree? Check our supplies. Obviously, when there's a little arrow there, what does that mean? We know something's wrong. In your actual assignments, are you going to have those little arrows there pointing out that that's what you need to do? No. So we need to do, we have a debit of 600, and then we have another debit of 625. So we are going to have a new balance of 1,025. You know what we should be doing? I'm going to stop right here. Supplies, we have this new balance of 1,025. Let's put this up here on top. Otherwise, you're going to end up having to reopen them all. I have it open in the bottom. I'm going to go back and get cash at the same time, because you're going to have to put that new balance up here. Does that make sense? I'm going to make mine just a smidge smaller. So while I'm fixing them, I'm going to put the correct amount up on my worksheet. Otherwise, we'd have to go back and reopen them all to put them back up on top. So I'm all the way to prepaid insurance. Am I going too fast? No, Mrs. Grassel, you're doing great. Thanks, you're welcome. So obviously we can see here prepaid insurance, we have a debit here of 150 and then another debit of 150. 150 plus 150 is not 400. So I would have 300 in here. 300 is going to go back up on top for our trial balance. Accounts payable power supplies. Please remember accounts payable power supplies is a liability. Its account number is 210, so therefore it needs to go on the credit on your trial balance, not as a debit. Paul Cody Capital, same thing. Paul Cody Drawing is a debit balance, not a credit. Income summary should not have anything in it. Sales, they just can't type the right number. So I got new numbers now on my trial balance. We should back up the train fill in the top part too. We are doing leafy lift. It is a worksheet and it is going to be 4 month ended September 30th. Don't forget the top 3 lines on your worksheet as well. And then go through and add up your debits and credits. So Jared just gave me information that he got 7,050. Did you guys get your debits and credits to equal? Okay. So that is step number 1. And when Paul Cody was doing his worksheet, he should have realized when trial balance didn't equal, don't do anything else because he completed a whole worksheet and all that work is done incorrectly. So now the next thing we have to do is we have to take a look at those adjustments. And here's one thing that is a little bit hard to know, like, is the adjustment amount right or wrong? And the adjustment amount is correct, it's just in the wrong spot. So what we want to do is instead of debiting supplies $390, we are going to credit supplies $390. So therefore supplies expense would need to be debited. And prepaid insurance should be credited $95 and $95. So then you can go ahead and add those two together. You have your $390 plus $95 to give you $485. And then your debits and credits will equal in your adjustment column. Okay, so the next part after you fixed your adjustments is now to determine, does it go on the income statement or balance sheet? And remember, assets, liabilities, and owner's equity go on your balance sheet. Revenue and expenses go on your income statement. Cash is an asset, so I'm going to put $4,250 on the balance sheet. Same thing for accounts receivable, Sharon Mann. Supplies is also going to go on their balance sheet, but not $1,025, also not $390. I need to take $1,025 and subtract $390, so that's going to give me $635. I will do the same thing for prepaid insurance. I have $300. I'm going to subtract $95, and that's going to give you $205. Accounts payable power supply is a liability. Liabilities go on our balance sheet, so I'm going to put $150 over there. Paul Cody Capital is owner's equity, goes on our balance sheet for $5,000 as a credit. Paul Cody Drawing is also owner's equity, still goes on our balance sheet, but it goes as a debit for $300. The next account that has a balance is sales. Sales is a revenue account, and revenue and expenses go on our income statement, and it will go there as a credit of $1,900. Insurance expense is going to go as a debit of $95 because in the trial balance there's 0 adjustments. I'm debiting $95. Same thing for supplies expense, $390. So I go across there and I have some numbers now I need to add up. And again, remember, you are not going to go through and have your debits and credits equal on your income statement and balance sheet when you first start. They shouldn't equal. The very first thing you have to do is figure out how much money did you make in your income statement column. We know that it is going to be a net income because your credit is bigger than your debit. What we need to figure out is what is our net income. Anyone able to figure out how much our net income is? How'd you figure that out, Jared? So I'm going to take $1,900, which is my total revenue, and I'm going to subtract my total expenses. My total expenses, which can be found on my worksheet, is $660. The difference between those two, like Jared said, is $1,024. So I put that below my income statement debit because I need to get my income statement debit and credit numbers to equal, and that's how I'm going to get them to equal is by adding down. But if I put $1,204 here as a net income, it also needs to go on my balance sheet. And if I take $5,150 and add $1,240, it should equal your balance sheet debit. If it doesn't, you know somewhere you've made a mistake. But we should be rock stars, and everything should equal. Now, one of the things that's a little bit hard on this assignment is because we had to do a lot of work in our ledgers, and each ledger opens up separately. If you don't have 24 out of 24, you might have to go through and look at each ledger to see where if you made a mistake potentially. But why don't you go ahead and do the on your own.